Are there any announcements today?
Good morning. I'm Sam Gingrich. I'd like to have a brief meeting for everyone who's going to be teaching or who is interested in teaching or substitute teaching for junior Sunday school after church day. Meet after church. We'll just meet up here in front. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I have so many announcements, I had to write it on a piece of paper. So, it's almost Christmas. I don't know if you know that. I'm gearing up for the holidays. With that being said, I wanted to let all the ladies of the congregation know that we're going to do our second annual gift exchange. And the reason why I'm bringing it up so early is if you would like to do something homemade, whether it's a craft or canning or just getting the good deals, the gift exchange requires 6 unwrapped gifts that are the same. Doesn't have to be identical, but it does have to be the same. So that's going to be in November. A date has not been picked quite yet, but it is going to be coming up quite quickly before you know it, which I'm looking forward to because I'm ready to be done with the hot weather. And it's going to be a tea party theme. So stay tuned to that, but keep looking for your gifts. And the other thing is, women's yoga has been rescheduled, so the storm might have been a blessing because now it's rescheduled and I'm hoping more people can attend. It's going to be Wednesday, August 28th at 6 p.m. We have a yoga instructor coming, so if you would like to come, it doesn't matter what your ability is. If you're not able to get on the floor, that's okay. We're going to be doing chair yoga. But if you are going to come and get onto the floor, if you could bring a yoga mat, and if you have an extra yoga mat, please bring that along for somebody that might not have one. That being said, if you could let me know and RSVP with me so I can get our light meal for after yoga together by August 25th, which is Sunday. It's the last Sunday of the month. And then my last announcement for this morning is next week we will be having service and fellowship at Maple Ridge. If you could bring a dish to pass and a dessert, that would be great. And if you can bring your own place settings for sure. It's not as easy when we're not at our own home per se to grab what we need. There will be some yard games, and I'm going to bring some board games just in case it's raining or for the people that don't want to get out. Kevin's not here, but I've been practicing my croquet, so I'm going to take him on again. And we'll be taking a collection at Maple Ridge for for using their services. Thank you.
I'm Dave Norris. If you are participating in Loving Lewis County in 2 weeks, next Sunday at 1:30 they will be having a meeting at the fairgrounds, and they will take you the money that we're putting toward it, they'll collect it that day, and that's when you'll receive your t-shirts. So for those of you who will be participating, we do have a meeting next Sunday at 1:30 at the fairgrounds.
Just a quick reminder, we do have junior high youth here Saturday night. If you are going into 6th grade this year, you are especially invited to join us. But we're going to say anybody that's under 15 that's too young to go to youth camp this week, you are invited to join us for that junior high event on Saturday night.
God is our refuge and strength, and ever-present help in trouble. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. Christ is like a single body that has many parts. Therefore, the foot cannot say, I am not part of the body, nor can the ear say, I am not part of the body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you, nor can the head say to the feet, I don't need you. If one part suffers, all the parts share the pain. If one part is praised, all the parts share the joy. Together we are Christ's body. Each one of us is part of it.
Good morning. We're going to be doing some singing this morning. And I am going to warn you that this is the part that the youth were most nervous about leading this morning. And as many of you know, God has given me many talents. Singing is not one of them. So we are going to need your help this morning. Hopefully these songs are all familiar to you. So we ask that you sing loud and sing proud this morning with us, okay? We are going to be starting on number 365 in the purple hymnal, Lord, I lift your name on high.
This is not the Bible. I can't do this. I'm better at finding Bible verses than this. All right, everybody take a little step forward. All right. Ready?
Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way. From the earth to the cross, my debt to pay. From the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. Our next song is number 778, Will You Let Me Be Your Servant? Every morning at MDS, we had a time of devotions together, and you could either sign up to help in the kitchen, which all of our kids did, or you could sign up to lead devotions. And so the morning that
Friday group.
they did remind me that Friday group got to skip helping in the kitchen. So those who signed up for Friday had it especially good. But the morning that I signed up for devotions, this was kind of what I used as my focus that morning. And I really like the part of the song that says, pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too. For a lot of us, it's easy to serve. It's harder to step back and let others serve us. So as we're singing the song this morning, I want you to focus on ways that you can be a servant for God and to others, but also think about ways that you can be humble and let others serve you.
Pilgrims
And our last song this morning is River of Life. Some of these kids are excited for teen camp this afternoon. And so Andrew has agreed to help lead this one for us.
All right. I got a river of life flowing out of me. Makes the lame to walk and the blind to see. Opens prison doors, sets the captives free. I got a river of life flowing out of me. Spring up the well, within my soul. Spring up the well. And behold, spring up the well. Give to me that life abundantly. One more time. I got a river of life flowing out of me. Makes the lame to walk and the blind to see. Opens prison doors, sets the captives free. I got a river of life flowing out of me. Spring up the well. Within my soul, spring up the well. And behold, spring up the well. And give to me that life abundantly.
Will the children please come up here? Okay, guys, so we're gonna talk about MDS. Well, not really, but it's MDS. Do you guys know what my shirt says? Oh, sorry. Do you guys... Do you guys know what it stands for? No? It stands for Mennonite Disaster Service, and do you guys know what a disaster is? Yep. And it's basically what happened in Lowville. We had a big mess in Lowville. That's all I have for you guys.
Prayers of the people. That huge why held deep inside us all, or spat out occasionally. It's an intellectual question. It's a cry of agony. There are no answers, only waiting. The walking alongside the being there. Only the giving out of what we do not have. The love that comes as we give it. The incredible risk of love demands more of us than easy answers and pretty prayers.
You're so tall, man. Okay, let's calm her down here. Hello, my name is Andrew. I'm going to be sharing about a little bit of the trip on MDS. We started July 7th through the 12th. And that right there is the day we're going. And we're on a ferry. And also, it was a really nice day out. And so we got a picture there. Next slide, if I turn this on. Wait. It's not working. Right, point. Right. Am I not clicking the right button? I'm trying. Oh, it's not on, that's why. My bad. Why? Archery was not my best suit. What button? Betsy, we never taught this.
Push this button, point right there.
See, I'm not the best one.
There you go.
So where we were, it got really flooded. Like, the water is like past cars. Like, it's taller than probably a basketball player. So the water flooded from the river and just wiped everything out. People had so much, and they lost basically all of it, which is really sad because they don't really deserve that. Like, nobody really deserves everything to be lost. So next slide. We took this very seriously. One way was me and Samuel put each other in lockers, and the girls wrote on their hands. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so the day we were at a church, and turns out it was a school the first time, so they had lockers. So me and Samuel, fun thing to do, we just put each other in lockers for fun. And then, so the second group that was there was really conservative Mennonites, and so they had more girls than boys of anything. They only had, like, I don't know how many? Four girls? They only had like 2 adults, but most of them were like the people who worked there, I guess. I don't know what to say. But yeah. Next slide. That was our list for the morning. So we wake up, make our lunches at like around 6 or so, and so we go make our lunch, look at the list. As you can see, it just shows what we did and who our group leader was. So you got Rex, Eric, and I can't see who. Oh, Tim. You had Tim, and so that is what we just looked at for like what we're gonna do for the beginning of the day. As you can see, it has like the list of what we're gonna do. I can't read it from back here because it's super small. My bad. But yeah, after our list, we went to our work site, and right there, that guy was Eric, the one that's with me and Samuel. And then that's the first day. We were doing edging for the rims of the house. So we put wooden like edging around the house. We painted, all that. And then that picture actually right there with Samuel in it, not the one with Eric, but the one over there. Samuel said he lost his pen or his pencil. Turns out it was on top of his hat, and I saw it. That was a fun time. But yeah, so at the beginning of the day, as I said, we looked at our board, and then we got everything out of the trailer, like all of the tools that we need for that day, and we just did that. And then that was the first day. You see we were doing edging, like caulking, like putting, so they had nails, so we just put some caulk on our hands and then rubbed it in where the nails wouldn't show. Then we painted over, So right there, we're doing flooring, and then me and Samuel were cutting the wooden edges for almost the whole entire day. But it was fun, I guess, because we got to use a dangerous tool. That one we were doing painting. We were painting doors to have it look a little bit nicer. It would match the color of the walls and the edges, I guess. But yeah. That right there, they are digging a French drain. So a French drain is basically just like somewhere water can go not into the house, but like into the drainage system and then go out a different way so it won't hit the house and flood it again. It's not working. What? All right, that right there is the house where they took up a lot of trash. How much was it? It was like over 8,000 pounds of trash they took out of that basement. So that was crazy. That's actually really cool. And so that was one of the houses that got damaged by the flood. And so all of those trash bags you see was like in the flood. And it was like a year that trash sat in their basement. So just think about how so bad. All right, that right there, I believe, they're doing flooring, right? Ductwork. All right, I don't know. All right, so I guess they're doing ductwork. I don't know what they're doing because I was on a different project. That right there, yeah. So me and Samuel, that guy right in the second photo, that guy name was Numa. He's really cool. He was really fun. And so me and Samuel were doing flooring. He just liked to watch and observe. And then also, he liked to talk a lot. So for Scott, he's trying to do plumbing and like water heating, and he's talking to him. And so I come in and distract him so Scott can do his work. One of the conversations we had was either about college, like traveling to like a different country for a college trip. And then another conversation was about like languages that he speaks. He used to speak 3 languages. He only speaks 2. He speaks Spanish and French. And then he used to speak German, which was really cool. And so he was pretty fun to hang around with. And it was a good project. I like it because his house looks over the river. And it was also really nice to eat lunch because he has 3 balconies. So he has one in his kitchen, one in the middle of his house, and then one on the roof, which me and Samuel actually ate lunch there, which is a really nice view. So that right there are the 2 girls from the other youth group. They woke up really early to make meals for like the people who lost a lot. And so they came to the Red Cross and then just made meals basically throughout the day, waking up really early and then getting around 5 or so around there because we had a time limit of how long we could work. It's like 4 or 5 we can work till. That right there, we were doing our group, I don't know what to call it, devotions. And so we had a booklet, and we just wrote down a lot of what we thought and what were the questions in the book. Just like at Beaver Camp, we have those. And so that was pretty fun to do, I guess, because I got to read for the first time, which my group never thought I could read, but I did it somehow. That right there, that's what we did when we had fun, yeah. In the top corner right there, that's me and Samuel playing in a mud puddle because that was our only entertainment that we had. Besides pickleball, pickleball was also another fun thing to do. I've never played pickleball. I've seen it and like people that play it, and it was pretty fun. I like pickleball now. I can say that. And that is it. Thank you.
This is Exodus 16, 2 through 4, 9 through 15. In the desert, the whole community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted. But you have brought us out into this desert to starve this entire assembly to death." Then the Lord said to Moses, "I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way, I will test them and see whether they will follow my instructions." Then Moses told Aaron, "Say to the entire Israelite community, 'Come before the Lord, for he has heard your grumbling.'" While Aaron was speaking to the whole Israelite community, they looked towards the desert, and there was the glory of the Lord appeared in the clouds. The Lord said to Moses, "I have heard the grumbling of the Israelites. Tell them, at twilight you will eat meat, and in the morning you will be filled with bread. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God." That evening, quail came and covered the camp. And in the morning, there was a layer of dew around the camp. When the dew was gone, thin flakes like frost on the ground appeared on the desert floor. When the Israelites saw it, they said to each other, "What is it?" For they did not know what it was.
Good morning. I'm just going to share a few minutes here. I had Samuel read that Exodus verse today. That was one of our lectionary passages. And it just illustrates that God will provide for us one day at a time. And that was something that we really learned on our MDS trip. One of the things they always say about MDS is that you need to be flexible. Things change quickly, and so we did learn that on our trip, as I'll tell you about in just a few minutes. But I do want to thank the youth this morning. I know that stretched them a little bit. Some of them were a little nervous to be up here, but I'm so glad they did it. You know, we always say that the youth are the future of our church, but the youth are not the future of our church. The youth are our church right now. And so even though it makes them a little nervous or a little uneasy, it's so important, and I love to see them up here. In a little bit, we're going to have Micaiah Landis up here. He's going to be sharing a little bit this morning, too, about Mennonite Action and the work that he's been doing with them the past couple weeks. I actually told the youth Sunday school class that you were going to be sharing this morning, and one of them who does not know you said, "I'm so excited. I've been following it on Instagram, so we're excited to hear what you have to share this morning." But I just wanted to share with you for a minute or two a little bit about our trip. And so Andrew shared a lot about our trip during the slideshow. It's not entirely his fault that he didn't know about the duct work. So they had us divided into 3 different groups, depending on the day, depending on the jobs that needed to be done. Sometimes we were all together, like the first day, and other days we were all headed in different directions. Numa, who Andrew mentioned, Samuel and Andrew basically spent the whole week at his house, which was super fun for them. They got to know him really well. He was one of the homeowners, and he liked to share stories. Adrian and Scott Watkins went with us as the other adult leaders, and we could not have done it without them, so I want to say a special thank you to them. They were really great just taking care of our youth and being flexible. For all of us except for Scott, this was our first MDS service assignment, and if you've never worked with MDS before, I really want to encourage you to get involved. You don't have to have any sort of construction knowledge because I had 0. They have you fill out a little survey, and all of us did it, including the youth. Do you know how to do drywall? Do you know how to do paint? And for all of mine, I had to put I do not know how to do this. Somebody's going to have to teach me. But that's why we had crew leaders. We had really great crew leaders that week. We had three men, and I'm going to talk just a little bit about them. One of the great things about MDS is not only you get to serve, but the relationships and the other people that you meet that you wouldn't have otherwise. So Andrew mentioned there was another group serving with us that week. It was actually not a youth group per se. It was 5 young women who were very conservative Mennonite from Wisconsin, and their parents brought them, their daughter and her 4 friends, and so we served alongside them. Again, we got to know them really well. They were really wonderful people, and if not for MDS, I'm sure that our paths would have never crossed. We also had Eric, who served with us, who was one of the crew leaders. Eric was finishing up a year-long internship with MDS. He was from Mississippi. He was a great guy. He worked with Samuel and Andrew a lot, and I think they really valued that relationship. And we got to spend a lot of time with Rex, who was another crew leader. Rex was a retired journalist. He actually wrote a lot of scientific articles, and he retired. And he told me, he spent a year just kind of hanging out in retirement. And then he said, what am I doing? Like, I'm not gonna spend the rest of my life just kind of hanging out. So he went back to school for 2 years. He went to a trade school so that he can learn all the skills that he would need to be a crew leader with MDS. So he actually lives in Phoenix, Arizona, and he volunteers then as a crew leader with MDS. So it was great to learn more about him and his story. We also got to spend some time with the homeowners. One of the homeowners that stood out particularly to me, Andrew showed you that picture of all that trash that we hauled out of that basement. We did an entire dump truck full of trash. Those bags had been sitting soggy and wet in his basement for an entire year. And he was a man about my age, maybe a little bit younger. And he shared with me his life story. He was born in New York State. He was adopted. And when his adopted mother died, they had moved to Vermont. He said when the storm hit, it was really surreal. He was afraid that their vehicles were going to go under, that they weren't going to be safe in their house. And so he took his family and they went to a shelter. And he said it was a place that he was used to his son playing sports. He had a 9-year-old son that we got to meet and got to hang out with. And he said, you know, he had been there many times. He was used to going there to watch his young son play sports. But then he arrived and there were just rows and rows of cots set up. And there were people that were displaced. And so it just really, it made him see things in a different light. And there was another homeowner that we got to interact with a little bit. They had bags of those wood pellets, you know, that you use for a pellet stove. And they had, before the flood, they had just restocked. And so they had about 200 bags of wood pellets in their barn. And then the flood came, and all of the bags of pellets were wet and soggy and had been flooded. And so after the flood, the homeowner just didn't know what to do. She said, there's no way I can take care of this myself. And she actually said to us, you know, they'd kind of been sitting on it for a year, just not really knowing what to do. And she said, somebody reached out to her about MDS. And she said, I didn't even know that there were groups here that were still helping. You know, a lot of times after these disasters, groups come in and they help for a little bit, but then they kind of move on to the next thing. And she said it was really just a blessing. She had kind of felt forgotten, and she just felt so blessed that MDS, you know, was able to come and to help her. And I think there were about 8 of us in our group that day. And in all honesty, it probably only took us an hour and a half to get those bags of pellets out of her barn. but for her, the task just seemed overwhelming. But she told me that she trusted that God would work all of this out, that God would provide. And then MDS showed up. And so, it doesn't seem like a huge thing when you're doing it at the time. Oh, we're just moving bags of pellets. We're just painting trim in somebody's basement. But for somebody who feels forgotten or who feels abandoned, those things can make such a difference. We also had a very unique experience. They kept reminding us, you guys, you have something different going on. While we were there, we went to Vermont to clean up from the flooding. And so the original flood happened on July 10th, 2023. On July 9th of 2023, all over the news, there were reports that there was going to be a lot of rain that night. And so we met together as adult leaders. And they told us, hey, this is MDS, be prepared. There may be a knock on your door at 3 a.m. We may be asking you to go help rescue people. We may be asking you to help pump out basements. Now, luckily, we did not have to get up in the middle of the night. But the next morning, we were woken up quite early, and there was flooding that night. And the flooding was a little different than the flooding we had in Lowville. They lived in a mountain town, so there were mudslides. So there were just, a foot of mud on side streets. A lot of the streets were closed. We couldn't get through. Some of the people in our group had gone and served breakfast at an emergency shelter that Red Cross had set up. Some people had to go take sump pumps and pump out basements. Unfortunately, some of the basements that MDS had already cleaned out had been reflooded. And some of the jobs we were working on could not be done anymore. Scott was a rock star in our group. He was doing a lot of heating and plumbing stuff. And the house that he was working on, there was then about 2 feet of mud in the basement. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to finish that job. But he was flexible, and they had him working on something else. Andrew even went, and they were going to have him help deliver oxygen to somebody that couldn't get out of their house and needed oxygen for medical reasons. So that day, everybody was kind of just doing what they could to help the people in that community survive and get back to normal. And while we were having that flooding there, we were also having flooding here. While we were in Vermont serving as a youth group, MDS was setting up groups here. And I think it sent some anxiety through the group. We kind of weren't sure exactly what was going on at home, and we saw all the devastation that was happening that day in Vermont. But I think for a lot of us, it made us realize all the more how important that work we were doing in Vermont really was. So this morning, I also wanted to share with you not just my experience, but the experience of the youth. So as Andrew mentioned, we did morning devotions as a whole group with the other group of youth that were there and all of the volunteers, the long-term volunteers. But then in the evening, we did devotions as just our youth group. And MDS had created this really great devotional book for us to use with the youth. And so on the last day, the devotional book really encouraged the youth to reflect on their week, to think about what they learned, what their dominant theme was, and what they would like to share with others back home. Now, they were a little nervous to share this themselves, so with permission, I am sharing some of their thoughts about what they learned this week. Someone shared how they learned a lot from other people, not just practical construction skills, although I think many of our youth learned a lot of new skills. They're great at painting, they're great at ductwork, so if you need any of that stuff done, you might have some helpers. But they learned things like what it was like to be in someone else's shoes when you don't have adequate resources. Someone else said, I gained a lot of empathy seeing what people were going through. On the night that we were experiencing flooding here in Lowville, there was a little bit of anxiety throughout our group. We had a special devotional that night where we just kind of shared some of that anxiety and some of that fears. And one of our teens was kind of flipping through their Bible and found a particularly comforting Bible verse about fear and anxiety. And so his reflection was, he could relate to the Bible, and God can help us find verses that can relate to exactly what we're going through. One of our youth shared, God taught me selflessness and empathy, as well as the importance of community and being there for one another. And the last reflection from one of our teenagers I wanted to end with today. And she said, she learned how helping people changed their lives and how God is with us every day. Micaiah Landis is going to come up and share with us his experience with Mennonite Action. So if you would like to come up and share, thank you.
On July 18th, Samuel and I started an 11-day, 140-mile march from Harrisonburg, Virginia to Washington, D.C. Mennonite Action planned this march as a peaceful demonstration to oppose the ongoing genocide in Gaza. While witnessing something that doesn't make sense, Mennonite Action co-founder Nick Martin said we must do something that does not make sense. Killing tens of thousands of Palestinians does not make sense. Every day of the march consisted of first eating breakfast around 6:30 a.m., having a morning circle where we would sing songs, read a land acknowledgement, and talk about the day ahead of us. We would then set out to walk between 12 and 14 miles, stopping about every 3 miles for a 15-minute break. Along the march, we saw many people waving and honking in support. There was a far greater amount of supportive people than unsupportive. In the evening, we would have a service where we would sing, read poems and stories written by people in Gaza, some who have since been killed in this genocide. In May and June of last year, I traveled to Palestine on a trip led by one of my professors, Tim Seidel, who you'll hear more from in a video I will play after this. During my time there, I got to know many loving people that are affected by the Israeli occupation in the West Bank. Since being there, I've heard from some of my hosts saying that not even in Gaza, but in Bethlehem and nearby areas where I was and where they still are, they are affected by the genocide, experiencing increased settler violence and increased prices of many essential items, as well as becoming even harder to find work. This conflict is not new. It did not start on October 7th. October 7th was a violent reaction to the 100-year war on Palestine. I witnessed many of the struggles Palestinians faced due to the illegal Israeli occupation in May and June of last year. I joined this march to say that our government does not speak for me. I joined this march to stand up for my friends in Palestine. And I joined this march because our tax dollars are paying for a genocide that is a blatant opposition to my faith, and doing nothing was not an option. I'll play a video now. Beginning on July 18th, Mennonite Action began an 11-day march from Harrisonburg, Virginia to Washington, D.C.
My name is Tim Seidel. I use he, him pronouns. I attend Community Mennonite Church in Harrisburg, Virginia, and I teach at Eastern Mennonite University, an associate professor of peace building, development, and global studies. So the last 9.5 months have been horrific. The situation in Gaza, Israel's genocidal violence against the Palestinian people has been relentless. Including these last couple of weeks as we've been marching and as we took action in DC. So in response to the genocide, in response to ongoing U.S. support for Israel, including material and military support of that genocide, we organized this march. Additionally, this march 11 days, 140 miles from here, from Harrisburg, Virginia to Washington, D.C., to the White House, culminated in an interfaith action for Palestine. Specifically in response to Christians United for Israel, an organization, a powerful, big organization that subscribes to Christian Zionism. So this is a political theology that actively advocates for Israel's violence against Palestinians. In that, Christian Zionism encourages Christians to support the state of Israel unconditionally, including as it's committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza right now. So this march was organized as not only a no to those death-dealing theologies, but was organized as a yes to life-giving theologies that we as Mennonite Christians hold to, and that many Christians hold to.
March started around 60 Mennonites and allies in the U.S. and Canada.
My name is Katie Corbett, and I use she, her pronouns, and today my role is to be the lead flagger, so I lead the march at the front, and I flag people down to make sure they slow down for everybody and move over to the side if possible, so it's a fun job. And I'm marching this whole time, and I'm doing this because I want to see what's happening in Gaza stop, and as an American who has the privilege to be in a space that is supporting this, wanting my tax dollars and what I'm doing not to continue to support them.
Each day, everyone ate breakfast at 6:30, joined in a morning circle at 7, and started marching by 8 a.m.
My name's Kirk Shankzer. I was glad to be a part of this march, just for the day at least. I'm feeling okay right now. I think I need to go home and take a walk, or maybe a nap. It feels like an important thing to do, and that I am I'm very privileged to be able to bow out after a day of discomfort.
Yeah, yesterday was like landslides.
And it's not lost on me and anybody that Gazans don't have a lot of privilege.
Yesterday was like a landslide.
So, yeah. I have great admiration of the folks that are continuing on this march. I hope that a lot of people see them and take note.
Hi, my name is Jacob Stoltzfus. I'm one of the participants in the All God's Children March Reasons Fund. I'm pretty tired. It's been a long walk. I guess it's kind of like relaxing to finally be done with the walking part, but pretty sore and painful. But is a good walk. Well, I'd gotten a few, I think, emails or messages about like the general Mennonite action thing, but then I heard more about it in church, and me and my brother figured like we could go for at least a few days. And I've been aware of the conflict going on in Gaza and the large amounts of people being killed, and just wanted to do at least something about it. Just whatever I can, I guess.
My name's Carrie Nelson. I'm from Tucson, Arizona, and I am marching for 8 days with Mennonite Action because I believe that I want to live in a world of liberation and justice without violence, and that means living in Palestine. And also because I believe in the power of community, and being a part of this big Mennonite and allied community is really important, and it's the only way that we're going to achieve any of our goals.
Hi, my name is Theta Good. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm happy to be on this walk on behalf of Gaza today. My role on the march is I'm a support driver, so I've driven the minibus, I'm going to be driving the van, and I've also driven the poop truck. So however I can be helpful, I'm here and happy to assist the marchers on this walk. I've been able to visit Palestine twice, once when I was in seminary, and then later I led a church group over, and I just have a lot of compassion for the atrocities that are happening to the people of Palestine. Genocide is unconscionable, and this seems like a small effort to be in solidarity with those who want to see a ceasefire for Gaza. And as I'm doing this, I think a lot about the people in Gaza who've had to flee, and they haven't had support as they're fleeing their houses and as their houses are being bombed. So I feel quite privileged, and any inconvenience this is to me is nothing compared to what the people of Gaza are going through.
Each day of marching would conclude between 2 and 3 p.m. at a church, generous landowner, or a campground.
I'm Brad Yoder, and my wife is Jeannie Smicker. We're from Noblesville, Indiana, and we're members of Shalom Mennonite Church in Indianapolis. So as soon as we found out about Mennonite Action, we said, yes, we want to be part of that.
I'm very involved in anti-racism training, and I recognize so much the parallel of what's happening in Palestine, settlements, etc., with what our country did to the indigenous people, what the Europeans and the United States did to the indigenous people that were already here. So it seems like there's a lot, you see these things repeating themselves if you really understand what's happening.
Yeah, I guess in addition to my general interest in Mennonite Action, I've been to the Middle East several times. I've been in Israel and Gaza. 2006, and then was it 2018 or 19, where there was a group. So I know people who firsthand have been horribly mistreated, oppressed by the Israeli government, and so I have a particular interest in the Middle East. I've been to when I was there in 2006, we flew into Tel Aviv, and then we went to Jerusalem, but we also went to Ramallah, Hebron. We didn't actually go to Gaza, but we talked with people who were very close to Gaza, and talked with people who were working in Gaza for Mennonite Central Community at that time. So it's just, I mean, as all of you know, every day is just more horrible news from what Israel is doing there with our money. So we just, anytime we have an opportunity, we want to do something about that.
So we organized this march to raise up our voices, to raise up our prayers, to lift up our songs, to use our feet to demonstrate, to take public action in a disruptive way over the course of 140 miles. To let folks know who saw us, to let the world know, and in particular, to let our public officials know that we oppose, and we oppose their support of this violent theology, and we oppose their support for Israel's genocide, and call for an immediate ceasefire, call for an end of the genocide, call for an end to U.S. support of Israel until it complies with international humanitarian and human rights law.
Our closing song this morning is number 754 in Voices Together. If you would please stand with me and remain standing for the benediction. Now receive this benediction. Go into the world and do what the Lord requires, living with kindness and justice, walking your path humbly with God. Know that yours is the kingdom of heaven, yours the strength and mercy of God, yours all the blessings given to God's beloved children. Amen.